Welcome back. 3 people have been found murdered in an opposition-dominated neighborhood of Burundi's capital. Police say they were shot dead by unknown gunmen. Their killing came after a spokesperson for an opposition party in Burundi was shot and killed outside his home in Bujumbura. The violence follows Pierre Nkurunziza's re-election to the 3rd term in July, a poll widely seen as lacking credibility. Security forces have mounted an operation to disarm civilians in some volatile parts of the city. Well, the issues in Burundi mean the country is facing a suspension of aid. 52% of Burundi's budget comes from donors. Now, European nations, the United States, and leading aid agencies have announced the suspension of cooperation with Burundi. It's also facing diplomatic isolation. Relations with the European Union have deteriorated, with the 27-member bloc closing its mission in the country. The African Union Commission has also publicly criticized the conduct of the country's elections held in July. Well, to explain more on this, I'm joined by Belyse Kwizera from the No Action, No Change campaign. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here. You know, with all of this that's happening, and now you see a threat of aid being suspended, what's going to happen in Burundi?
Well, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna be more chaotic than it was already. But bear in mind that those funds, most of them were to support the public sector. But if you look at public sectors like education, the healthcare system, most of them are shut. The children have not returned to school since last April, since this gone April. And so what will be the funds for if they are not to benefit the new government helping it killing its own people?
So what is the right way for international leaders to actually deal with the situation in Burundi then?
From a civil activist and from the opposition point of view, this is a great move forward because more pressure needs to be put on Bujumbura's leaders for them to react, and we really pleased with the cuts in aid, and also the fact that it's putting pressure on the East African community, which is meant to be supporting Burundi in resolving their issues. So because they are not doing somehow what is meant to be done, they are facing the same consequences. Bear in mind that 70% of their budget comes from funds as well, from donors, and it seems like they're being cut as well. So we're hoping with stronger resolutions, stronger solutions imposed on Burundi, that maybe they will be able, Bujumbura's government will be able to change its position and consider the interest of the whole country rather than the interest of a group of people.
Now, you know, is there any legal way for the president to be fired or forced to resign? Has anyone looked into that? Has your organization looked into that either as well?
Everyone has looked into it. That's probably why all the donors, all the international community is pushing the president to do so. But because he has tried to even change the Burundian constitution, what can Burundians do? The only way forward is through discussions, is through negotiations. But they are not open to negotiations. And we, the rest of the country, is saying we are open to negotiations, but as long as the Arusha Accords are not violated, as long as the Burundian constitution is not violated, because we're not moving, we're not going anywhere. So many lives have been lost over this cause. So many lives have been lost to keep the democracy. So where will we go if we don't tackle that issue of 3rd term? And the government is still stubborn in that position, saying we're open to discussion, we're open to negotiation, but we're not negotiating about the 3rd term.
You know, one of the things that's quite interesting here, like in countries like Egypt, for instance, you saw an uprising against the government. But why is that not happening in Burundi?
It has happened, but it has happened. The only problem here is because elsewhere they've been able to arise to speak against without being killed. In Burundi, I'll give you a small example. There have been protests, and now the government is trying to disarm the areas that may have guns, but they are only attacking those areas that are filled with protesters. They have not been to areas like Kamenge, for example, which is like the headquarter of the government milice. They've never been there. They know there are arms there. They know they can do harm to anyone that would dare to go there, but they are not doing anything.
Yeah, that is really worrying. And just lastly, very quickly, tell me about the daily lives of people in Burundi.
Well, it really is sad. I'll give you a small example. Last week, for example, the police was in an area called Jabe, which was one of the areas that protested against the third term. And no one was allowed to get in or out of their house for 72 hours.
Wow.
We're talking about families that have children. No one was allowed to go out, meaning parents were not allowed to go out and buy food for their own children. Those who were not well had to stay in the house. Those who have conditions like diabetes that might need healthcare at any moment were not allowed to step out. Whoever dared to step out was taken by the police as a protester.
All right, thank you very much, Belyse Kwizera from
You're
No
welcome.
Action, No Change. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me again. Thank you.